Hello, and welcome to the show, everybody. I'm your host, Israel Rivera, and this is another edition of the AFC North season previews, and we're doing the big dogs. I wouldn't say they're the big dogs, but the Cleveland Browns. I would say the dogs of the AFC North, the Cleveland Browns, the team with much speculation and a team with much potential here, and a team that is just looking to move forward, right? A team that's looking to build on, what they got in the offseason, right? And a team of, great defensive young players that they're going to come in to this season. So the Browns definitely have a lot of high expectations. But before that, everybody, please take your time, go like, share, and subscribe to the Prime Sports World Facebook page, our YouTube page, and our Twitch page that we have up as well. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the podcast, and go ahead and like our NFL Supreme Facebook page and our NBA Supreme Facebook page, because Prime Sports World brings the heat no matter what, 24/7. Like I said, we got a lot to deal with. Don't want to dabble and dibble with all the marketing stuff. But anyways, these Cleveland Browns got a lot of potential this year. I mean, they're a team that can, possibly, make it, make a deep playoff run with the defense that they have and the quarterback that they just received in the offseason, and Deshaun Watson. Or they're a team, because of the suspension with Deshaun Watson, they might, they may not, make the playoffs. So they're a team kind of in between, in my opinion. And also, everybody, I went ahead and shared the link to the podcast in the comment section. So if you guys are interested in joining the podcast, go ahead and join. Click that link, and I will let you on. And also, everybody, I should be having some people maybe trickle in here throughout the show, but we'll see. For right now, I'll go ahead and give you my analysis on the Cleveland Browns. The show moves on. Right now, the first storyline of the 2022 season is how much Deshaun Watson, how much will Deshaun Watson's pending suspension affect the Cleveland Browns? That is a great question. That is the ultimate question for the Cleveland Browns, is how much will it affect that offense? I'll tell you right now, Deshaun Watson, when he's playing and healthy, Deshaun Watson is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, period. Hands down. He is, like Dabo used to say, he's like the Michael Jordan of football. I wouldn't call him the Michael Jordan of football. I actually would consider, Tom Brady that. But, I get why, Dabo would make that claim, because he's athletic, he's accurate with his passes, he's got the grit, he's got all the intangibles on the field. But it's the off-season stuff, right? It's the off-the-field stuff that kind of, was all in the storylines and was on the headlines and everything like that. And it's been going on for a couple seasons now, especially last season. They sat him out all last season in Houston due to the allegations. I believe there were upwards of, godly, 30, 40, something upwards of that. Is a high number of allegations. It was 66 women over 17 months, just over 66 different women over 17 months, in which Deshaun Watson hired to be his masseuse. And out of those 66, I believe 30 of them, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe 30 of them, these are just notes, 30 of them settled with the Texans, and 20 of 24 have already settled with Watson already. So I think there's 4 active civil cases out there right now that Deshaun Watson's fighting. And I think out of 29 out of the 30, they said that one of the 30 for the Texans, I guess, didn't sign a civil suit. So that case may be thrown out. We'll see. Get an update on that one pretty much down the line. But how much will it affect them? So, there's been a lot of speculation that Deshaun Watson probably won't get suspended. That's wrong. He's definitely getting suspended. He'll be suspended for 4 games to 8 games. Kind of getting a little higher there. Or he'll be suspended indefinitely or for the season. I think that's kind of in between of where we're going. I think from like what the reports I hear, I think it's going to be a half a season. I think it's going to be 8 games, in my opinion. I think they suspend Deshaun Watson for 8 games. He comes back by the middle of the season, and really, you're really asking Jacoby Brissett, who is and they just signed Josh Rosen too, by the way. Um, it's Jacoby Brissett will be the quarterback. You're asking Jacoby Brissett, okay, if Deshaun Watson's out for 8 games, can you win at least 4 of them? Right? Can you win at least 4 of those 8 games? And that's the big key, right? And we'll get to that with their schedule. So I'm just gonna assume going forward, right here from the podcast, I'm gonna go with my gut. I'm gonna say Deshaun Watson's out for 8 games. Jacoby Brissett, you gotta at least win half of them. If you win half of them, then your team's in good position to possibly make a run at the playoffs this season. And also with the AFC North, I don't want to say it's up for grabs, but it is pretty much up for grabs. The Steelers are going to be down. The Ravens, we talked about the Ravens yesterday. The secondary was banged up all last season. They're in the midst of a Lamar Jackson with the contract extension as well. They have nothing for wide receivers to throw down to. They have a abundance of tight ends, 2 young tight ends, along with the superstar tight end and Mark Andrews. The running back, their backfield was depleted as well. You're talking about Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins coming back. So the Ravens might have a down year, even though I think that they're going to be a 10, 11. I think I said that they were going to be an 11 wins team or a 10 win team last night. That the Ravens will be a 10-win team. So you're really talking about Cincinnati probably running away with this one, depending on how things shake out. Because I think Cincinnati might be a 12, 13 win team. We'll get to them in their schedule later on in the week. But the Cleveland Browns here, this is a season in which the AFC North is pretty much up for grabs, in my opinion. When I look at the grand scheme of things, I mean, you got three teams. You got three teams that you know they're not all going to make the playoffs, obviously. But you got three teams that can possibly win 10 or more games in this division. Three teams that can win 10 or more games is when, and when you have that, it's kind of up in the air in a way. I think Cincinnati is the better team out of, I think better offensively, but I think when it comes down to defensively, this Browns team takes the cake defensively, in my opinion. How would the team be without Deshaun Watson for the first 4 games, for the first 8 games? Well, they're going to lean heavily on Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, and then you got Dearness Johnson back there. They drafted Jerome Ford, who's a late round pick, rookie. But when I look at this team, they had some injuries with Jack Conklin, which kind of affected the pass protection last year. He's healthy so far. So when I look at the Cleveland Browns offensive line, I think they're a solid offensive line, really good offensive line, built to run the football. I think if Jacoby Brissett, and also this is another storyline, a little in between storyline. Amari Cooper, is he an elite wide receiver one anymore? Right, he's getting up there in years, and who's really their number 2 wide receiver? Right, is it Donovan Peoples Jones? Is it Javon? Is it Jakeem Grant? From Chicago, who they got in free agency? Is it the rookie David Bell from Purdue, who's right now is on the physically unable to perform list? Right. So you have some some guys, and David Bell is a machine in terms of he had 232 receptions since 2019 in the college football. So that's a guy that, I mean, he can catch literally anything that gets thrown his way. Super productive. So is David Bell that guy? At basically 6'1", 212. He's got great size, can play in the slot. He's a good complement to Amari Cooper, but is he going to be able to be ahead of that rookie curve? We've seen rookie wide receivers come right into the league and do a hell of a job. Well, we'll see, but that is a big thing. And then David Njoku, he really hasn't really, he has all the talent in the world, but he's never been healthy. So they're in Harrison Bryant played well last year, if I'm not mistaken. That's a guy. Let me just look up his stats real quick. Um, Harrison Bryant. But yeah, that this Browns team has some holes, offensively, especially in terms of like the pass catchers, right? Outside of Amari Cooper, you're pretty much you're pretty much betting on a rookie and a couple veterans that haven't been number twos. They've only been like number threes or number fours. They've been guys that haven't had that solid production. Harrison Bryant, he's a red zone guy, a blocking tight end, 233 yards off 21 receptions. So like, yeah, I mean, they're gonna have their work cut out for them, especially in the passing game, and it shows. Last year, this team offensively was the 18th ranked also offensive team overall in terms of points per game, in terms of yards per game. They were fourth in rushing. That's expected, right? Top five rushing team. You got Nick Chubb, you got Kareem Hunt. I mean, you're going to be a top five rushing team anytime you have those two guys in the backfield. But this is where the passing game kind of transitions to, you know, this year around, right? This next year. Even though last year you had Odell Beckham for half the season or so, then he got traded to the Rams, and you had Jarvis Landry on the team, but they really didn't have much outside of that. And they struggled at the quarterback position. They were 27th in the league in passing. So I know with Kevin Stefanski, he's going to want to improve that this year. I don't know if they get, and I don't know if that number improves at all this year. They're going to be another top five rushing team, but until Deshaun Watson comes back, this team is going to take a hit in the passing game. So I don't really expect much. They're going to be a one dimensional team. It's pretty much okay. We're going to get a Nick Ball to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt about 30, 40 times, about 40 times a game. And we're gonna let Jacoby Brissett manage the game and kind of pick his spots and pick some good plays in which Jacoby can excel in, and put us in different positions and let our defense win the game. I'm going to see them first 8 games. I think it's going to be a slobber knocker, for the first 8 games, that they play. I think there's going to be a lot of close games. Defense is going to be on the field a lot. This might be a historic season. I mean, if they can win, 5 or 6 games defensively in the first 8 games when Deshaun Watson is suspended, and I'm just going to assume that he's going to be suspended 8 games, and I hate to use the word assume, when nothing has really happened, but I'm just going to make my prediction that he's going to get 8 games off as a suspension this year. So that's just me. So don't nobody attack me in the comments or anything like that. But yeah, this team's going to be a rush first team. And until Deshaun Watson gets back, that element of surprise through the air is going to be null and void because, Jacoby Brissett is just not that guy. He's a backup. He's a hell of a backup. He's a bridge gap quarterback. He's a guy that can win you 4 games, out of 8. But is he going to improve that passing game? No. Is he gonna make those other guys like David Bell and Donovan Peoples Jones and Jakeem Grant better? No, he's not. Amari Cooper's gonna get a lot of single high. And really, I think the X factor, in my opinion, in the passing game is David Njoku. Super uber athletic, has all the intangibles to be a great one. Has like Vernon Davis type of skill set, in my opinion. But he's just always been hurt. So David Njoku is key to the passing game because he can block, he can come down and he can be a mismatch problem for any linebacker or safety that tries to cover him in terms of speed and size, right? So this offense is definitely going to be different with Deshaun Watson. They're going to be more of a run centric team, and I don't think the identity has changed even when he comes back. I think they're going to be more run centric. Kevin Stefanski is going to do a lot of play action passing. Off of that running style offense. So, look for this, Cleveland Browns offense to kind of be a little bit of the same what they were last year. A really good rushing team. Defense is pretty good, but they just can't get it done through the air, and it's kind of disappointing for a team that has had these kind of expectations for the last 3 years, right? Of being a very good team. So, closing the book on that. Is my next storyline. I only had 2. Can this defense remain to live up to the expectations? that they have been bestowed upon them. Last year, they were fifth defensively in yards per game, fifth in pass. That's fifth in passing and 12th in rushing in the rushing defense. And I would say it'd be higher if they didn't have the inconsistencies that they had in the interior defensive line. I think they're kind of trying to sew that up a little bit. But I mean, on your edges, I mean, Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett don't get much better than that in the league. Jadeveon Clowney is a hell of a run stuffer. He's not that great of a pass rusher. I mean, he can rush. He can pressure the quarterback. Doesn't get many sacks, but he's a hell of a player at setting the edge and turning that running back in back into the inside. He's a hell of a edge setter, and he's definitely one of the better defensive ends when it comes to stopping the run on the outside. And he's money. And then Myles Garrett he's Myles Garrett. I mean, the kid can get 20 sacks and get 60, 70 sacks and stuff you on the run. I mean, he's that special. You don't see many Myles Garretts in the league. Come along. And then when you look at the linebacking core, Jeremiah Owusu Carmore, I believe that's the Notre Dame kid, if I'm not mistaken. There we go, ND, shout out. And then you have Anthony Walker as your middle linebacker. Another one thing is that I want to say, because they did draft a couple of nice young guys in the draft, and then Chase Winovich from Michigan. If David was here, I mean, he's a kid from I think they got him from traded from New England. But Chase Winovich is an interesting fact. He adds a little bit of that. Pass rush ability and that run stopping ability. I mean, he's not the greatest, but I mean, he adds a little bit of some depth to the edge, to the defensive end and backfield, to the defensive end room as well. So Chase Winovich is a guy to look out for as well on this defense. But when I look at the secondary, Denzel Ward, Grant Delpite, Greedy Williams, Greg Newsome, John Johnson. I mean, they got guys all over the field. Okay, they got guys that are. What I want to say about the defensive backfield for the Cleveland Browns, I'm gonna say this: they are probably one of the most fundamentally sound. Okay, fundamentally sound defensive backfields in the NFL. I wouldn't say they're the most athletic. I wouldn't say they're the hardest hitting, but I think out of all the defensive backfields in the NFL, this unit has to be so damn fundamentally sound. They don't have many weaknesses. They don't have many weaknesses. I'll say that right now. This team is. I think this team, in my opinion, this Cleveland Browns defense, in my opinion, is going to be another top 5 year this year. They were top 5 last year. They were 9th in sacks last season. The only difference is that what we want to see with Cleveland, the 20th in turnover differential, we want to see that change. Definitely with the offense kind of being inconsistent, that brings that number down. But when I look at total takeaways for the Cleveland Browns, they definitely got to improve that number. I mean, they were, pretty much at the bottom half of the league. What is this, 30, 32, 1? 21st in the league in takeaways last year with 19 only. So, that's definitely got to improve this year. And I think that'll improve with a more consistent pass rush approach. And like I said, that defensive backfield is super, super solid. I mean, Greg Newsome is solid. John Johnson was solid for them last year. Golly, who else do they have? Denzel Ward is one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Not sure what his injury status is, but I think from what I've heard, let me just pull it up here. I think from what I heard, Denzel Ward, he's still on a physically unable to perform list, but I think Denzel Ward will be ready. Denzel Ward will be ready at least by godly. He's gonna miss some time with the foot injury. He had the left heel injury during their offseason program, so he's looking to miss. But he had no structural damage. It was in a walking boot. Yeah, it looks like Denzel Ward will miss maybe a couple games. Um, Never played a full season in the league. Never played a full season in the league, but nonetheless, he's a lockdown corner. Anytime Denzel Ward is on the field, he's a lockdown guy. He's a top five. He's a top 25 player, NFL player when it comes to like defense, like on the defensive side of the ball in the league. Denzel Ward is has got it, But like I said, I think this defense is going to have some nastiness to them. I think the interior. I think they got the interior defensive line part right with Taven Bryan, Jordan Elliott, and they got Taven Bryan from Jacksonville. This is a team. This is a team. Then they drafted Perion Winfrey, and we'll get to their draft in a second. This is a team that has top five defense, maybe possibly top three defense when it's all said and done. I think this team. Really, I have high expectations for this team. I'm sorry. Defensively, I think this team is going to be super duper solid, super solid. Um, and I just can't wait to see. I just can't wait to see, what they bring to the table. They're going to be on the field a lot, though. They're going to be on the field a lot when it comes to because if the Cleveland Browns can run the football like how they did last year, which I think they are, then they won't be really on the field too much. But you still have to have an inkling of a passing game, and so you got to hope that the Jacoby Brissett can bring that to the table when it comes to the passing game. I don't see him. He's a game manager, so there might be a lot of 3-and-outs this season in the first half of the season, and that defense is going to have to get them, get them out the hole, just much like some teams that we've seen before, the 0-1 Ravens, the 2003 Bears, the 2006 Bears. We've seen teams, the Buccaneers, of the past. We've seen teams with horrible quarterback play, where their defenses had to bust them out the hole. So that might be what the Cleveland Browns defense looks like this year. But expectations, like I said, I think they're going to be a top five defense this year. That's my expectations for the Cleveland Browns. I think they solidified their defensive line. I think they drafted two solid defensive linemen in the later rounds. I think adding a Chase Winovich, adding a Taven Bryan, just only fortifies that defensive line. And then, like I said, I brought it up. I would say, man, that front seven is probably one of the best in the NFL. And then, the defensive backfield is as solid as they come. I mean, they were a top five unit last year, and they'll probably be another top five unit this year. They're super fundamentally sound. I just when I look at it across the board, they just don't over pursue. I mean, it's probably the reason why they don't have as many interceptions or takeaways as they would like. But this is a team that has they're going to stop teams. They're going to stop the other teams. Best wide receiver if hell freezes over, right? They're going to try to stop their best wide receiver. So and that's every NFL team, but Cleveland Browns have been really good at it in the last few years. So I got them as a top five defense this season. Moving on to their NFL draft. They had a couple picks that they traded away. They didn't have a first or second rounder this year. I believe that was due to the Deshaun Watson trade, obviously. And then they did have in round 3 they went and got Martin Emerson, cornerback out of Mississippi State. Fine player. It's going to add depth to the defensive backfield, especially with Denzel Ward kind of missing a little bit of having some nagging injuries here and there, and Denzel Ward kind of having an injury this offseason. That was a good pickup for them. Martin Emerson, good cornerback out of Mississippi State. They did, the Cleveland Browns they did need extra wide receiver help. They were one of those teams that needed wide receivers, but I mean, when I look at the wide receiver class after the first round and maybe the early part of the second round where Christian Watson and Sky Moore went, after that it just kind of gets a little sticky a little bit. So you got to kind of go with best player available, in my opinion, at that time. Um, but yeah, no, this that was a good pick with Martin Emerson, and then they went and got Alex Wright with their second, third round pick from UAB. This kid right here, he can really ball out. He gives them some good depth in the pass rush right there behind Myles Garrett. And then their third round pick was David Bell. I mentioned him earlier, wide receiver out of Purdue, who just gobbles up everything that comes his way. Had 232 receptions since 2019. That's an FBS best. So that was best in college football. So he was super productive with the Boilermakers. They're hoping that he can, be their number 2 or number 3 coming in next season. And then round 4, Perion Winfrey, defensive tackle out of Oklahoma. He's a 2-year starter. He was a Senior Bowl MVP last year, and he'll have the opportunity to start despite coming in as a first-year player. So look out for Perion Winfrey, defensive tackle out of Oklahoma for them. And then their second fourth-round pick, they arguably got the best kicker in college football, in Cade York from LSU. The kid, connected on plus 80% or more of his, I forget what it is total. I think it was like 83% of his field goals last year, but the kid is dynamite from long range. So Cade York is a guy that they coveted and we saw this year. Punters and kickers were getting picked early, as opposed to maybe even waiting later in the 7th, 6th or 7th, or getting some undrafted guys. Some teams went and got punters and kickers in the middle of the draft, and that kind of I mentioned it before. Special teams, you can't win a championship without the 3 phases, right? Offense, defense, special teams, and when your team is constantly having special teams miscues, it puts your team in a glaring position of need, in which you need to fix that, and so they're looking at the kid from Cincinnati who came in and did a great deal for the Bengals. So Cade York's probably going to come in and do a great job for the Browns. So I don't mind it. Special teams is a real important part, and if you can pin your guys in between the 10 from 10 and on, that's a big thing, right? For a punter and for a kicker, if you're constantly kicking 50 plus yard field goals whenever your team's drive stagnates, that's another win right there. So don't have a problem with it. And then in the 5th round, they're going to get the running back out of Cincinnati, Jerome Ford. Even though they got Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, and Dearness Johnson, a crowded backfield. And then also you got to throw in, the last six round pick, Demetric Felton as well. So I don't know, where Jerome Ford falls into this. He's just added depth just in case Kareem Hunt or Nick Chubb kind of go down. And then round 6, they added Michael Woods out of wide receiver out of Oklahoma. Had 38 starts. Basically, this is basically another depth pick here. He'll be a special teams guy possibly. And then there's 2 7th round picks: defensive end Isaiah Thomas out of Oklahoma, and then they got their center Dawson Deaton out of Texas Tech. And my thing is that they replaced JC. JC Treader is not with the Cleveland Browns anymore. He was a staple for them at the center position. And they replaced him. Godly, who is the guy that they got here? If I'm not mistaken, they went off and got Nick Harris. There we go, Nick Harris, who was a 5th rounder in 2020. So they went and got him. So and then they still got Ethan Polchich. And then they went and got this kid Dawson Deaton, who's pretty much going to be projected to be probably a guard. We're starting to see this in the NFL a lot, where centers play multiple positions on the line. So check him out to be either compete, try to compete, in the depth chart at center or guard. But he's definitely a guy that's going to make the roster this year. I don't know about that kid from Oklahoma, Isaiah Thomas. He might be a practice squad guy. Might be not Isaiah Thomas, Michael Woods. He might be a practice squad guy, special teamers guy. but he's not a guy that's going to make the roster like this kid, Dawson Deaton, is probably going to make the roster as like a second or third string guard or center on this team. If I had to look at this draft, if I had to give a grade on this draft, I'm gonna give this draft I'm gonna give it a C plus. You got some. You went with best player available, Martin Emerson. Out of round three. Um, could you have gotten a better, defensive tackle? I mean, I'd have to look at, what the NFL draft was looking like. But in terms of getting David Bell later on in round four, I think that's a hell of a pick right there. I like David Bell out of Purdue, and then getting the two kids getting the kid from UAB, who I think is going to be a solid third rounder there, and then Perrion Winfrey from Oklahoma. I think he's another guy that's he had a very good college career out of Oklahoma. One of their only bright spots, I think, on their defense, next to a couple others. But yeah, he's definitely a guy. He's definitely a guy that is a bright spot. So I'm gonna have to give it a C plus. Only reason is because round three, when you went and got Godly, I'm about to pick up Martin Emerson. When you went and got Martin Emerson, you could have went and got another solid wide receiver. Maybe Velus Jones from Tennessee. You could have got Travis Jones out of UConn. You could have got Travis Jones and you could have got Perrion Winfrey, right? And Travis Jones is the guy that had a first round grade on him. Godly. In that same round, you went and got Alex Wright, which is a plus. I'd give it that. Godly, you guys passed on to Kobe Dean, who I think is going to be a stud in the league. A lot of teams passed on to Kobe Dean. I just don't know how the hell he fell that far in the draft. I know due to the injury, but he proved in college that he wasn't, that wasn't a factor. Sean Ryan was another guy. You could have added him on the line. He was a center / guard for the UCLA Bruins. He's a guy that you could have added for a depth piece. There's guys that you probably could have got ahead of. Martin Emerson, but I like it. Big corner. He's fundamentally sound. Goes right into that. Goes right into what they want to do. There at in Cleveland. And then that same third round they got David Bell at the end of the third round. So hell of a third round for your first three picks. I can't get mad at it. I'm gonna say. There's a few guys here. There's a few guys that they could have passed up. You need a wide receiver. You handle defensive tackle. You got Perrion Winfrey. You got the kid out of UAB. I'm going to give it a C plus. Just because of the fact that they did draft what they needed. They just didn't get guys that were super needle movers, in my opinion. Cade York is interesting. He's going to be a day one starter. So is Perrion Winfrey's probably going to be a day one starter as well. David Bell's probably going to be in the rotation. So you got some guys that are probably going to be starters, next year. Definitely Cade York, definitely Perrion Winfrey. I expect him to start, and I expect David Bell to probably be their number 2 or number 3. You signed Jakeem Grant. You got Donovan Peoples-Jones. We'll see what David Bell is, but I think David Bell at the end of the year might be their number 3, possibly number 2 guy if everything works out. But he shouldn't. He shouldn't. The rookie. But if he's that good, he's gobbling up everything, man, like he did in college. He should be a round 2. He should be a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 in that offense. And then I just don't get the 5th round pick, right? I don't get Jerome Ford, right? From Cincinnati. You got you got a hell of a lot of running backs, right? Got a hell of a lot of running backs. Why not, take a, why not, go get Montrell Washington from Sanford? Why not go get some of these wide receivers that were maybe, still available here? Why not go get, Godly? I'm looking at, defensive end Tyreek Smith out of Ohio State. You could have got the kid from UCLA who was DT there. I watched a lot of him. He played really good. Godly. the kid that Minnesota got, Otamwo, the defensive end, that kid is pretty good. I mean, you could have added a couple other defensive pieces on that line, but I get it. Getting Chase Winovich, we'll get to their free agency class, but there just wasn't much for them to work with. I think they just went with best players available and what that was high on their board, and there wasn't really a wide receiver that they were really truly interested in. But I'm gonna have to give it, at least. Golly, man, Kalish, they could have, golly, round four. I mean, round four, I know you got Perry on Renfrey. I mean, you probably could have got Cade York in round five. I don't know how far Cade York, but I mean, golly, I mean, you could have went and got Romeo Dubs. You could have went and got Calvin Austin, who was a speedster. Wide receiver help, and you could have went and got one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft, who I think is gonna be a hell of a pro, who has great body control. Khalil Shakir out of Boise State. I love that kid. So there are some guys that you could have drafted in the fourth round other than Cade York, and probably could have got Cade York in the fifth round. I don't know what other teams were looking at, you know what I mean, in the fourth round, but instead of getting an early round on the kicker, you could have got another depth piece to add at wide receiver or defensive line. So that's the reason why I give them a C plus. Other than that, I probably would have gave them a B minus if they could have, or a solid B if they could have, if they would have hit everything in line of how they would have. So give it a solid C plus for the Cleveland Browns. They didn't have much to work with. Moving forward to their free agency class. They added Deshaun Watson in the trade, obviously. Amari Cooper signed with them. Jacoby Brissett, who was big, adding a backup quarterback because, we all know Baker Mayfield was going to get traded some way, somehow, and Deshaun Watson was going to get a suspension. So you get one of the best backups in the league in Jacoby Brissett, a hell of a game manager, and you put him back there. And then Jakeem Grant from the Bears, who had a solid season for them. And then the departures, obviously, Baker Mayfield got traded to Carolina. Austin Hooper left. Jarvis Landry going to New Orleans. And J.C. Treader then not moving along with J.C. Treader. And then looking at some of the other additions or losses, they lost Case Keenum. Troy Hill was another departure. Rashard Higgins was another departure from them. Golly, who can I look at? Chase Winovich was another key addition, in my opinion, from the Patriots to the Browns. They got him in a trade. Golly, in my opinion, that's about it. That's about it in terms of all the guys that they were able to get. I think those are the key additions. Now I'm gonna give their free agency class. I'm gonna give it a solid B plus, or I give it a B plus because you're getting Deshaun Watson. After all these court cases and everything's done, and he gets a suspension, you're getting the All-Pro quarterback. Okay, you're getting a guy that's possibly gonna get you over the hump. Okay, when all the smoke clears and Deshaun Watson's playing, and he's healthy, and he's not dealing with the civil court cases, the offseason stuff, Deshaun Watson is a hell of a freaking quarterback and is in the pros. So Deshaun Watson's a hell of a quarterback. Amari Cooper may not be elite like how he was in Dallas, but Amari Cooper is one of the best route runners, one of the most consistent wide receivers in the last 10 years. Amari Cooper is a solid player. Jacoby Brissett, one of the best backup quarterbacks. One of the best backup quarterbacks in the league. We saw with Jacoby Brissett, he can win you at least. In the first 8 to 10 games, I think Jacoby Brissett can win you, at least 4 or 5 of them. And then out of a whole year, Jacoby Brissett is the guy that can probably win you 7 or 8 games. Not by himself, but he's a guy that can, get you 7 or 8 wins just because he has a high football IQ. So yeah, Jacoby Brissett was a solid pick for them. Jakeem Grant, very fast. It's very hard for me to be like, oh, Jakeem Grant's gonna be a needle mover. I don't even know why David has him. I'm gonna throw David here, but David, why the hell did you put Jakeem Grant here as a key addition? You should have put Chase Winovich up there instead of Jakeem Grant. Skip Jakeem Grant because I don't even know. Speedster, special teams guy, whatever the hell. he's not a factor in the passing game. He had 9 receptions last year, 439 yards and 2 touchdowns with the Chicago Bears. Okay, I'm done. That's no production at all. So yeah, give me Chase Winovich as a more key addition here. That's going to solidify the defensive end depth there behind just Davion Clowney, and kind of a guy that kind of plays the same way. He's an okay pass rusher. I would say below average. I would say a really good in run stopping and setting the edge. And then departures, we already knew Baker Mayfield. Why the hell is he going to stay on the team? He wants to be a starter. He's going to be a starter in Carolina. He wanted out. Austin Hooper, one of their more consistent tight ends. He really never lived up to the hype when he signed from Atlanta. Austin Hooper is an interesting guy. Let me pull up his stats. Austin Hooper is a real interesting guy because I thought when they signed him and David Njoku, I said, oh my gosh, they have, two of the better young tight ends. But, Austin Hooper was never matriculated. He never matriculated really as a Cleveland Brown. His numbers went down when he went to the Browns. 46 receptions his first year, 435 yards, 38 receptions his second year for 345 yards, and only 7 total touchdowns. His yards, his average per catch went down. His big play ability went down. He was much better suited in Atlanta. But go ahead, young man, get paid. Go ahead, young man, get paid. I can't tell any person to get paid. And it's not like he missed a lot of games in Cleveland. He played 16 games last season in Cleveland and only had 345 yards. And then the year before, he only played 13 games. So you missed about 3 or 4 games, and he only had 435 yards with 4 touchdowns. So, yeah, Austin Hooper definitely didn't live up to the contract that he signed with the Cleveland Browns. And he signed a 4-year deal that was worth $44 million with a $10 million signing bonus. And he was actually released by the Cleveland Browns. They sent him off with his paper. Released. That's how bad he was with the Cleveland Browns. But he ended up signing a 1-year deal with the Tennessee Titans. So hopefully Austin Hooper turns his career around there in Tennessee. When I look at this free agent class, like I said, I'm going to give it a solid B because, of Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper, and then adding Jacoby Brissett, knowing that Deshaun Watson's future is a little murky. I'm going to go ahead and give this free agency a solid B, in my opinion. Everybody go ahead and drop any comments down there, about, what your grade is on their NFL draft, on the Browns draft, and on the free agency roster shakeup as well. But, ladies and gentlemen, best part of the show is where we, or me right now in this case, bring you this schedule prediction. So we run through their schedule and go ahead and predict their schedule. And I'm going to go ahead and start it off. I'm going to go ahead and start it off with the Cleveland Browns. Carolina, they go to Carolina and play their old quarterback and Baker Mayfield. And I am going to go ahead and say that might be an L. That might be an L. I'm going to tell you why. Baker Mayfield's going to play juiced up. He's going to be playing like super with a chip on his shoulder. They're not going to have Deshaun Watson. I'm sorry. There's going to be a suspension. He's not going to not get a suspension, however you want to spin it, he's going to be suspended. Okay? You have to rely heavily on the run game. Carolina was okay last year defensively. They're pretty good defensively. They were all right defensively, right? I would say right now, in my opinion, Carolina wins that game because Baker Mayfield comes out juiced up, with chip on the shoulder, no Deshaun Watson. The offense is going to be a little bit in flux in Cleveland, in Carolina. So I'm going to go chop that off as a L to start the season in Carolina. Next game, they go back home and they bring in the New York Jets, which I do believe this is a W. I don't care if Jacoby Brissett is playing here or if whoever the hell is playing on whoever the hell is the third string. It could be Josh Dobbs or Josh Rosen. I think that they beat the New York Jets just because the defense is just top 5, and Zach Wilson's going to have a tough time against his defense. I know the Jets have added some, different pieces. They had a already crowded backfield, but they had one of the better running backs in the NFL draft. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. And they added Garrett Wilson. Like I said, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. The New York Jets are going to lose this game, and that's just point blank. Period. Um, Moving on to the third game of the season, third week of the season, Pittsburgh comes into town, and the Cleveland Browns beat Pittsburgh down. This is a rivalry game right here. Obviously, what happened a few years ago with Mason Rudolph and Myles Garrett. I think that's kind of died down a little bit, but Pittsburgh's not going to be good this year, in my opinion. Mitch is going to be running like a chicken with his head cut off. He's got those nightmares when he was in Chicago. But, Myles Garrett's going to have a great game in this game. They're going to do a lot of, stopping Najee Harris. There's going to be a lot of Najee Harris in this game, but it's not going to matter. I think Cleveland's defense steps up to the occasion and wins. And then week 4, they go into Atlanta and play Atlanta, and we don't know if it's going to be Desmond Ridder or Marcus Mariota. I'm just going to assume it's going to be Marcus Mariota. Still no Deshaun Watson, but still, it don't even matter. It don't matter. Because the Atlanta Falcons are going to be horrible next year. And they're going to try and throw a lot of games so they can get in that C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young sweepstakes. Okay, so, and even though they drafted Desmond Ridder, they might be in the sweepstakes for the kid, Godley, the defensive lineman from Alabama. So, Atlanta's going to suck next year. I'm sorry. That is a W for the Cleveland Browns on the road. And then week 5, they go back home and they play the Los Angeles Chargers. And this is where I have them taking a big fat L. Los Angeles is going to come in there and smoke them. They're not going to be able to keep up with that offense, even though they're going to give that offense some fits. The defense is going to be on the field too long. They're going to be tired. And by that time, it might take its toll on the Cleveland Browns. So I got them taking an L in week 5. And then week 6, they're still at home, and they play New England. I'm actually gonna go with New England in this game. I think Mac Jones and the New England Patriots get it done on the road against Cleveland. And right now we're talking about 3-3. You got through almost half the season, Jacoby Brissett, before your bye week. They got 2 more games before the bye week. Can he win either one of these games to at least get them to a respectable 4-4 before Deshaun Watson comes in after the bye week and they go into Miami? They go to Baltimore, and yesterday I predicted that Baltimore beats them. I think that Baltimore splits with the Cleveland Browns. I think they split with the Cleveland Browns this year, and I'm actually gonna have Baltimore winning this game at home. Right now, the Cleveland Browns are 3-2 going into week 8 at home against Cincinnati, and they really got to win this game. I think they have to win this game because it's going to put a lot of pressure on Deshaun Watson to win most of their games in the second half of the season. He's going to have to at least go 7-1 for them to even have a shot at making the playoffs in the second half of the season. So this is a big game right here. These 2 games right here, week 7, week 8, are big games for Jacoby Brissett and the Cleveland Browns. I am going to go out and say that the Cleveland Browns beat Cincinnati at home. I think they beat Cincinnati at home, even though I think Cincinnati has got a hell of an offense, a hell of a defense. I think that they'll still be able to keep it close. I think this game will come down to a field goal and the rookie will win it. Ted York will win it for them, possibly in OT, possibly at the end of regulation. I think this game comes down to 3 points. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, even though I think that, Cincinnati has an excellent offense, with Joe Mixon, good offensive line play, solid offensive play. I wouldn't say good. I would say improved. And then I would say, wide receiver wise, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon, Joe Burrow. That is very lethal right there. But I think the Cleveland Browns will do enough to negate all of that. And I believe that the Cincinnati Bengals will lose, by a field goal at the end of regulation. So that brings us into the Week 9 bye week, in which Deshaun Watson has some time to scurry up some of that. He's been ready. He's been itching. He ain't seen the field in a year and a half. Okay? He's been dealing with a whole bunch of offseason problems. And I think Week 10 coming out of the bye week, Week 10, in Miami, Deshaun Watson is the Cleveland Browns quarterback. So now, this is where the real season starts. Jacoby Brissett did his thing. He went 4-4 halfway through the season. That's all they needed from Jacoby Brissett. Week 10 in Miami. Whew. They get the job done. Deshaun Watson comes back and has himself a hell of a game coming back. He's juiced up just like Baker Mayfield. He's got a chip on his shoulder. Everybody counted him out. He's got all the negative feedback, rightfully so, from what he's done and his off the field. He's gonna have to restore his character. But on the field, people have said Deshaun Watson, too much of distraction off the field. I don't even know if he should be in the NFL no more. He proves all the doubters wrong in Miami. Tough game to play on the road against Miami. I'm gonna give the Cleveland Browns a W here. I'm gonna give the Cleveland Browns a W for their 5th win. They're 5-4 so far, going into Week 11 into Buffalo, where they take a fat L. They take a fat L against another top 10, top 5 defense in the MVP of the league in Josh Allen. I think Buffalo gets it done in Buffalo and beats the Cleveland Browns. And then they go back home and they face Tampa Bay. And this is where I believe this is where you start to see a little bit of a roll here from the Cleveland Browns here. This is the start of it. They beat Tampa Bay in a very competitive game in Cleveland. Deshaun Watson has a good game. That defense is all over Tom Brady. They're stopping the run. They're stopping the pass. They're making life difficult for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Cleveland. I think Cleveland picks up their 6th win here, and so far they're 6-11 going into Week 13, if I'm not mistaken, against Houston, which this is the W. Deshaun Watson playing his old team, Week 13. Davis Mills, even though I think Davis Mills is going to have a nice year this year. I know David's watching. I know I look good, baby. I know I look good. I know I look good, baby. I know I look good. Look, Davis Mills, David's going to have a good year, but the Houston Texans are going to suck. I don't know how that works out, but, anyways, let's just chop it up. Houston's going to lose that game. And then on the road, Cleveland goes to Cincinnati, and they revenge. They lose this game. They lose this game. Cincinnati avenges their loss, losing to Jacoby Brissett. Now you got a healthy, Deshaun Watson in an offense here coming into town. I think Cincinnati gets it done and beats Cleveland. They're at home, and then they come back home. They come back home to Cleveland in a Week 14 matchup. Week 15 matchup against Baltimore at home. And this is where I think they get a W at home after Baltimore beats them. They split with Baltimore. They split with Cincinnati. And I believe they sweep Pittsburgh. And then they're at home against New Orleans. I'm honestly not a big believer in New Orleans quarterback situation. I think that they're going to have trouble with the quarterback. So even though I think Jameis Winston did a hell of a job last year, I just don't believe, in Week 16, I don't even know if he's even going to be there or if he's even going to be healthy or who's going to be the quarterback. I do believe that New Orleans is going to be a hell of a team, but I have the Cleveland Browns winning that game at home against New Orleans. And then they go on their last 2 games on the road in Washington and Pittsburgh. And I am going to go ahead and say that they win both of these games here. I think that they beat Washington at Washington. They beat Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh. And I got this team as an 11-6 ball club making the playoffs. You're going to have 3 10-win teams in the AFC North. I said it yesterday. I thought the Baltimore Ravens were going to win 10 games. 10 or more games. I think I had them going 10-7 yesterday, with possibly going 11-6, possibly. But I got them winning 10 games. I got the Cleveland Browns winning 11 games. And then we'll see what I have the Cincinnati Bengals at. But I have the Cincinnati Bengals. I think I have them in between 12 and 13 wins. I think 12 and 13 wins the division here. I think 12 wins the division in this division. Possibly 11 wins the division in this division. But I think the Cincinnati Bengals are a 12, 13 win team, possibly a 14 win team, depending on what kind of levels or steps they take up from last season. But that's been a wrap, folks. That's been a wrap, folks. I know you guys are tired of me for talking for an hour. Okay, folks, but it's all good because we made it through. We made it through the show, and we got another one for the books. And if I had some sound effects, I go doo doo doo. We're done for the show, baby. That has been the Cleveland Browns 2022 season preview. And everybody who missed the show, you can catch it on Prime Sports World, on Facebook, on our YouTube channel, and on our Twitch. And go ahead and please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. Go ahead and like the Prime Sports World page on Facebook, and go ahead and join our Facebook group, fan pages, NFL Supreme and NBA Supreme, as we bring the most exclusive content to you on social media. And nobody, like David says, nobody goes live more than Prime Sports World on Facebook. So you guys stay locked in, and I'm sorry I have to do it by myself, but I've been doing it for myself for an hour. But here at Prime Sports World, guys, I'm going to tell you this right now. We bring the heat 24/7, folks. Go ahead and join us. Next podcast, I believe, will be either the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Cincinnati Bengals. Not sure where we're going, but go ahead and catch Prime Sports World here. You got it. I'm your host, Israel Rivera. And so far, folks, and if I missed you, good night, good morning, good night, and good afternoon. And most of that one will go right over your head. I'm a movie buff, so you guys have a great day, great night, and drink responsibly. Salud. Have a nice one.